Logan, the final outing for Hugh Jackman as the Wolverine, and once again directed by James Mangold, director of The Wolverine. It's not a choo-choo. Probably my new favourite Wolverine line. And what did I think of Logan? I loved it. The Wolverine, i.e. Logan, really is back. Right from the opening shot, you're instantly sold on this old man Logan. You can tell how much time has passed. How they open the scene and portray Logan as all grey bearded, and he's got this attitude back where he's probably like, oh, I don't care, get off my lawn, sort of thing, you know. And people anger him, he's probably like sing, slicing everyone up. He's literally on the edge all the time, it seems. He's depressed, he's an alcoholic, he seems to be depressed. It's evident that it's definitely set in the future of the X-Men universe, where X-Men are no longer a thing, and it's just probably just Logan and Professor X. And believe me, this film is depressing. James Mangold definitely went for the darker tones possibly do with this film. It's a 15 here in the UK, and my goodness, this is not a superhero film for kids. It is not. And that's not just for the violence, which is definitely not suitable at all for kids. Like, there is literally slicing constantly, limbs coming off, like arms flying off, like necks being slit, sliced marks that bleed, and veins popping out of the forehead, and good old Hugh Jackman. The action in this film is intense. Like I said from the opening beginning, they completely set everything that you expect with this film up there and then. I'm not going to say what happens because of course this is a spoiler-free review, meaning no spoilers. In terms of action, there's a lot of jumping about, like Wolverine literally being a beast. Hugh Jackman is just great. He is great. This is probably my favourite incarnation of Hugh Jackman as the Wolverine. Still that bad booty that we know from the older films. You can kind of relate and understand what's going on for. Like, there's even a hint that maybe he's not alright in the head anymore, and you really get the sense that this is a disturbed time for him and what's left of the X-Men. But my favourite performance in the film may have to go to Patrick Stewart. I haven't seen that many of his films outside of the X-Men universe, but this may be one of his best. Definitely my favourite in the X-Men universe. Instantly from meeting Xavier, it's depressing for us as the audience. I can tell that time has moved on so much since something like Days of Future Past, for example, where they're all happy and smiley and everyone's happy to be together and they're still kind of young and fresh. You can tell that so much has gone on in their lives. He becomes so sympathetic. It's hard to watch him sometimes. He gives such a good performance as this damaged Xavier. But with the setting of this film being it has this an apocalypse sort of vibe to it. I mean, it isn't an apocalypse setting at all, but the X-Men have been wiped out, so they're pretty much by themselves, and it kind of is like an apocalypse, and they go to the desert a lot, and it kind of feels like the Mad Max sort of vibe. There's no hope for the future, except with Charles. He is the one character who has that sense of hope. He still believes, even though he has been torn so much inside and ripped apart, he still believes, and he's the only one. Wolverine, nowhere. In terms of chemistry, the back and forth dialogue and them talking about the past is just, it's awful. It's sad. It is sad. This film is quite sad in general. Another fine performance would be with X-23 called Laura. She is awesome. Like, people love Hit Girl from Kick Booty, but she is competition for Hit Girl. Performance-wise, she's even pretty great, especially towards the end. Like, you totally buy her as a character, and she's not one of those cringy kids that you're just like, oh, it's just a kid actress. She works perfectly well, and I would probably put her up there with Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart as great performances in this film. Probably those three are probably the best ones in the entire film, and she's just a kid, and I think this is her first role. She seems to handle the action and the drama just so well. James Mangold comes back, like I said, as director. I haven't seen The Wolverine. It's the only X-Men film I never got round to. Like, I've seen his Walk the Line about Johnny Cash, and that was really well directed. I had issues with that, but he is a solid director. He comes back and adds this level of dramatic weight that I feel a lot of superhero films today are lacking, even though I do like the majority of superhero films. He makes these characters feel genuine and real. He doesn't just have the characters show off constantly, he really grounds them and gives them backstory, pain and suffering on top of all this, like, over the top gifts that they have. It's just, it works so well. I mean, he doesn't skip on those quiet moments. If there's like a moment of characterization, for example, where maybe characters are just in a room like that, for example, he won't cut that down to he'll play out and get the best out of that scene. And there's a lot of it. I mean, this film is about 2 hours and 10 to 20 minutes long, and it uses each one of those minutes effortlessly, in my opinion. It's a slower pace, but not to the point where it's boring. It's like watchable and entertaining, and it helps suck you into the universe. And I think that's a strong point on James Mangold's part. Going back to X-23 and James Mangold, there's a shot where James Mangold has X-23 riding on one of those like automated horses. You know, the kids' horses where you put a penny in the machine and it starts like moving. She's on one of them at a distance, at a long shot. There's this desert landscape, and it just reminded me of like a western setting. Just that small thing to me helped. It kind of resembled how she is kind of like this lone warrior, like she can handle herself. I thought it was a really good choice in that direction for me. Though, as much as I did like it, I do have a few issues with it, just a few. As strong as the main characters are, as in Xavier, Logan, and X-23, you can't really say the same for the villains. I mean, there's two main villains. One of them's a henchman. It's just a generic two-dimensional character who is just evil for the sake of being evil. I kind of buy it, because there are genuinely just bad people in the world, and I'm aware of that. There's just literally evil people in the world for no reason. Not really much motivation behind them that you really care about. The characterizations are a bit boring, and most of them are just there. There's obstacles for Logan to get through and like slice and dice them until there's nothing left of them apart from a pool of blood. I mean, like the main villain, you don't really understand what his motivation is, and he doesn't really seem to have any characterization until one small scene where he briefly expresses what he's all about. Now that I come to think of it, I can't remember what happened to that character. The main villain, I don't remember what happened to him. I have no idea. I can't remember. There was some moments of CGI, didn't really sell me on the realism. Most of the film seems to be quite practical. Two occasions where CGI properly pulled me out of it. For the large part, the film is kind of a road trip movie, so the characters are in vehicles moving along roads during the day, for example, and sometimes they'll be having conversation scenes. There'll be a close-up from the side on, and you can see like the echoey blur outline of a green screen or blue screen in the background where it's been digitally added, and it kind of looks artificial, so I don't quite know if there's reshoots involved in that or if it just chose to film some at a studio and some on location, I don't know. And one other scene involving a train, it looked alright. I mean, none of the CGI is terrible, it's good at best. There was a train in it that it looked fake. I mean, it's a great scene that involves a train, but it looked fake. Again, nothing bad. I mean, sometimes you just have to opt for CGI. I get that not everything can be practical for expense reasons and practical reasons. I personally liked the first act. I personally really enjoyed the second act. I know some people felt it lacked a bit in that department, but the only part that really lacked for me was aspects of the finale. Again, I'm not going to get into it. Some of the action set pieces that occur at some points in the film kind of repeat themselves and rehash and reuse similar elements and similar characters to the point where towards the finale it kind of gets a bit, we've already seen it. And some of the characters involved in the finale are a bit cringy. Don't feel like they belong in this grounded, realistic superhero film, if you know what I mean. But yeah, apart from that, I pretty much loved the film. I would probably say this is the best superhero film since The Dark Knight. Not everybody will agree, but I genuinely think that as a film, this has some great technical skills and some great narrative skills and some fantastic characters. Other aspects that I really liked would be the fact that I can't remember there really being any explosions. And it being typically an action series, that's kind of cool. Most of the action scenes are quite creative. Probably my favourite action scene might be this one. That was a really clever action set piece and quite funny in its own right, but also very intense. I think this is a film that Wolverine always deserved. I mean, a lot of people always go back to the scene in X-Men 2. I think this is a film that really genuinely brought that. And some of the scripting is just memorable. There's a lot of scenes, including Xavier, where he's just talking and talking about the past that really kind of sticks with you after you've seen the film. But yeah, overall I kind of enjoyed the film, and I would probably say it might be one of my favourite superhero films, and definitely one of the best X-Men films. My overall rating for Logan is 8.8 out of 10. A masterpiece? Not quite. It is definitely the Dark Knight of the X-Men universe, and a film that I really want to see again, whether that be in the cinema or on Blu-ray, or both. Don't know, do any of you really agree with me? Did you not like the film? Did you like the film? Did you love the film? Is it a masterpiece? I don't know. Subscribe, and maybe I'll see you next time with a different review or whatever. Yeah, bye. Sing! Lighting is very gold and deserty looking and apocalypse looking.